The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Coming up tonight on Perspectives, we go front and center with the beautiful Bronx Community Service Agency that's been right here in the borough of the Bronx for quite a long time. We'll take you to them, tell you a little bit about what's happening in their life right here on Perspectives.
What's on your mind? Let 'em know. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables to speak on your decisions, cause in the long run it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
Well, this organization has been around since 1972. It actually started back in 1939, but more particularly 1972, right here in the borough of the Bronx. The agency that we're talking about, the Citizens Advice Bureau. They've been providing community service to many residents of the Bronx, as well as people from across New York City. An agency that's well known here, and today they're here to talk a little bit about a change that's going on, and then at the same time updating us with some things that are happening right here in our community. We want to bring Ken Small, who's our developmental director of the empowerment program, and he does a lot of wonderful things at the Citizens Advice Bureau. Now let me get this right: development director, empowerment program. Let's break the two up.
Development director. We used to have a weed and seed program many years ago, and I was the project coordinator for weed and seed, but that's going back quite a few years. So now it's just development director.
But when you talk about going back a few years, obviously you and I have known each other for years, and ever since I've known you, you've been at the Citizens Advice Bureau. And, you know, the funny thing about it is every time I get guests on the show sometimes, and you see them, you know, and you can see the metamorphosis down through the years. When you look at the Citizens Advice Bureau, obviously, I remember when you guys, you know, were first getting going and really, you know, and now to see where you are today, you got to be proud of the growth.
We're very proud of the growth that the organization has had through the years. We started out here in the Bronx in 1972. We had one office. It was a walk-in office that had 2 staff people. We now have 29 locations that are located in 6 different community districts here in the Bronx. And we have in excess of 600 staff, and by the time this year ends, we will have positively impacted close to 40,000 people who live here in the Bronx. So we're very proud of the work that we've done through the years, and we remain very excited about the future for the Bronx. We're very proud to have been part of the recovery, the revitalization of the Bronx.
And you've seen it happen because being right downtown, you see the economic development that's taking place at Yankee Stadium and right there in your own neighborhood.
Right.
And at the same time, you're also a part of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny that you mention Yankee Stadium because our community center, which is located at 1130 Grand Concourse, is literally within walking distance of Yankee Stadium. And in fact, oftentimes during Yankee games, you could hear the crowd from the stadium at our community center. Our hope is that we'll be able to get some of the players to come over to our community center, probably sometime in 2010, since I guess they're still celebrating from their recent World Series
Hey, you
victory.
gotta celebrate. I mean, God, I mean, you gotta think about how powerful was that. I mean, we're gonna digress for a quick second. How powerful was that? First year of Yankee Stadium, these guys go in and win the World Series.
The timing was perfect.
And you were right there, right next door. I mean, the place was rocking.
Yeah. We're very happy for the Yankees. We're very excited about their experience, and we are hoping for some trickle down and some trickle over.
Talking a little bit about your organization, Citizens Advice Bureau. Very important statistic I want to lift up. Between July 8th and July of 08 and June of 2009, you provided meals to almost 400,000 residents in the Bronx, including children. That's an astronomical number.
We feed young people through our summer camp and after-school programs. The bulk of that number, though, reflects the seniors that we serve. We have 4 senior centers that we operate throughout the Bronx. And folks often don't pay attention to the elders, but for us, seniors are really a very important population. And in many cases, the breakfast and the lunch that they get at our centers, in many instances, that's the only meal or the most nutritious meal that those seniors get during the course of a day. We also devote a good portion of our food resources to feeding people with AIDS. We have a nutrition program devoted specifically to people with AIDS. And we also use food as a means to engage the street homeless who are in the Bronx. The numbers in terms of the street homeless have declined significantly, 72% over the course of the last 4 years. But there are still some pockets and some enclaves of street homeless out there, and very often they're hungry.
When you talk about the numbers of people that are out there, you got homeless people who need services. Obviously, you're taking care of HIV and AIDS. You've got dealing with people with food stamps. Does it amaze you, though, looking as the years progress? Because when we talk about growth, you see the numbers continue to rise.
Well, what's interesting is people forget about the fact that if you go back to, say, the mid-1970s into the early part of the 80s, the Bronx really hit like a rock bottom. I was in college at the time, and I remember taking urban studies courses, and oftentimes the Bronx was the subject of conversations during those courses, and the conversations were never positive ones.
The Bronx is burning.
The Bronx was the negative for everything. Everything bad about urban America was embodied in the Bronx. It's interesting, now you talk to young people who are college students, who are graduate students, and the Bronx has actually become a model for urban revitalization. And that's happened fairly quickly in the span of about 1.5 generations. So our borough, our county, has gone from being a basket case, almost literally, to being a case study. And it's not only true in terms of, say, urban studies and other programs at colleges and universities here in the United States, but we have folks from other countries who are now coming here to look at the Bronx as a model for revitalization, a model for renewal. So I think all of us should be proud of what's been taking place here.
And one of the things we're extremely proud about is the Citizens Advice Bureau that has been here in the Bronx, as we said, since 1972. But you guys are going through a name change.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about this name change to the organization.
Well, our board of directors took a look at our organization a couple of years ago. The board went through a very involved, a very elaborate strategic planning process. And out of that process, a few things came up. One of the things that really resonated with our board was the issue of what are we getting from our name and what's the potential if we do something different with our name. So after our planning process, the board decided to engage a group of consultants to help us further with this process. And they carefully took a look at our current name, and they looked at some other prospects in terms of names for the organization. We also played around with the idea of simply having the initials CAB. We backed away from that because we said to ourselves, CAB, no one would say CAB, everyone will say cab, and they'll think we're a livery service. And in fact, on occasion, I've actually gotten calls from people thinking that we're a livery service. So the board decided that they needed to look carefully at the name. And what they said was, we serve more than citizens. In fact, in any given year, about 1/3 of the people that we serve are immigrants. And we're very proud of the immigrant community that we serve, as well as those people who were born and reared and are citizens here. We do much more these days than provide advice because we have a network of programs that engage a variety of population groups, and we provide very comprehensive services. And we looked at the last part of the name, the bureau part, and we got kind of scared. You know, we went around rooms in terms of focus groups of people, and we said, when you hear bureau, what do you think? And in just about every group, what people said was the FBI. And while we appreciate the work that the folks do in law enforcement, we don't necessarily want to be directly connected to people in the law enforcement arena. We don't want that kind of confusion coming to us.
So the big question is, what are you changing your name to?
Well, on Friday, November 13th at 9:30 a.m., the organization's new name will be revealed to the public at large. In addition to us having a name change, we've moved into a new administrative headquarters.
So on
we're
Friday?
doing Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Yes.
There's going to be the unveiling of the name change.
Unveiling of the name change and the opening of our new headquarters.
So let's just get down to it right here. So you're telling me after all of these years that you've known me, I've known you, you sat on this set.
Yes.
And you can't give your brother an exclusive?
The answer is you're welcome to come to the ribbon cutting
You
on
ought to work at the White
Friday,
House. All right.
November 13th.
I knew I wasn't going to get an answer, but I said if I put him on the hot seat, maybe he might try and just, you know, but
The seat is kind of hot, but I can't give it up.
I got you. I got you. I'm not going to mess with it. I am going to take a break, though, and come back with more with Ken Small from the Citizens Advice Bureau. That's until Friday. Then you'll find out exactly what the new name will be when we return. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Hi, my name is Terry Williams, author of Black Pain, It Just Looks Like We're Not Hurting, and you're watching Perspectives with Darren Hyman.
Make a difference
What's your
in someone's
perspective?
life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Let 'em know.
You're really not that talented.
You're not attractive.
Too fat.
You're too short.
Too old. Why don't you just give up?
Give up.
Give up. Just give up.
There you see the address to the Citizens Advice Bureau. That's the administrative office, 60 East Tremont Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10453. The number right there at the bottom of your screen, so that way you can call and find out about some of the services that can be provided for you. A multiplicity and a host of services have come and funneled through the Citizens Advice Bureau through the years. But if you want to find out more, take advantage of the information on the screen. Darren Hyman here with you. You're watching Perspectives tonight. Our guest, Ken Small, Development Director, and we were sharing a little bit about the changes that are taking place at the CAB. And
Yeah.
I want you to know I tried to get him to change up during the commercial and give up some more information. Very tight-lipped. So we want to let the brass know at CAB he did his job. All right. Now, let's get to this. Funding.
Funding.
Major concern. We hear even just now the governor says the way that New York State is going, it could be within a month that the state is broke. Obviously, not-for-profits and community-based organizations and organizations that really do service-based work are usually the hardest hit. How have you guys been dealing with the budget cuts coming both out of Albany and across the United States?
In some ways, we've been helped quite a bit by federal stimulus money. For some of our programs and services, that's helped to soften the impact of what would have otherwise been some very draconian cuts for our programs, in particular programs that focus on employment, programs that focus on youth, and programs that focus on housing. We are very concerned in terms of what's happening in Albany. At the start of this calendar year, we really had to launch a fight in terms of getting funds restored for the homelessness prevention program. The Citizens Advice Bureau is one of a number of organizations throughout New York City that receive homelessness prevention funding. And this is really money for frontline services to keep people in permanent housing and to keep them out of the shelter system. It's a total dollar pot of about $5 million that goes to about 5 or 6 organizations here in New York City. You look at $5 million versus $100 million in terms of what it would cost if the families had ended up losing their permanent housing and wound up in the shelter system. So we were able to have that $5 million cut restored because we were able to make a case that we'd end up saving the state and saving taxpayers 20 times that amount. I think what's now happening in Albany is you're seeing the governor really feeling very concerned because revenues aren't nearly as much as he had anticipated, and he's feeling that he really does have to step up to the plate and make some very tough decisions. It's hard to say what's going to happen, whether there will be across-the-board cuts or whether there will be more targeted cuts. But my thinking is, unfortunately, this time around, stimulus money came this particular fiscal year. We're probably not going to have another federal fiscal stimulus in terms of fiscal year 2011.
Well, what kind of programs have been affected through these cuts?
For us, we lost some funding in terms of youth services early on. We lost some HIV/AIDS funding as well. And our senior centers have really been taking a hard hit as well. As I had indicated before, seniors are a very critical part of our service base. And really, when we look at the budgets that we have for services for seniors, they're really, really very bare bones at this point. We've been somewhat fortunate because funding that we used to get directly from the New York City Department for the Aging, we've had some of our local elected officials able to offset some of the cuts that came from the Department for the Aging. But again, that was this fiscal year. What's going to happen in terms of fiscal year 2011 at this point is anybody's guess, but at this point, quite frankly, it's not looking that good.
And I think a lot of people have that major concern because they're looking and they're saying, listen, we might have something this year, but next year, things are going down the line.
Yeah.
What areas do you consider? What areas would you consider the strongest for the Citizens Advice Bureau, where we can say is the bread and butter of the work?
We're very proud of the work that we do across the board, but I think we're proud in particular in terms of the work that we've done around serving the homeless and around preventing homelessness. I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago, Mayor Bloomberg announced an initiative to reduce street homelessness by 2/3 in New York City. And I know there's been some controversy and there's been some confusion about some of the numbers. Some of the data in terms of homeless families shows an increase. But when you look at the number of street homeless individuals that had been on the streets, that number has in fact declined significantly citywide. But in particular here in the Bronx, over the last 4 years, the number of street homeless persons here in the Bronx has declined 72%.
Wow.
And that's largely the result of the work of the Citizens Advice Bureau, in particular our homeless outreach team and our living room drop-in center, which is a facility that provides emergency assistance to the street homeless and finds housing, either supportive housing or permanent housing for them. So we're proud of that work. We're also very proud of the fact that in this very difficult climate where a lot of people are vulnerable to losing their housing, that we continue to keep people in permanent housing. By the time this year is over, we will have probably helped somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 families at risk of eviction remain in permanent housing.
How have you been able to counter, because we know the nation has a high unemployment rate now, the highest it's ever been. In New York City, the Bronx has always traditionally had the highest unemployment rate across New York City, and much work has been done to really cut that down. But yet, and still, we still see the numbers continue. Are you seeing more people trickle in trying to deal with the issue of unemployment?
We're getting, in terms of some of our walk-in offices, we're getting more people coming to us around money-related kinds of crises. People who may have been employed previously who are now really struggling to put food on their table. And it may have always been difficult for them to pay rent, but they found a way in the past to pay their rent. Now, in some instances, they may be falling behind in their rent a month, 2 months, 3 months. So they're coming to us for emergency assistance. They're coming to us in terms of seeking help regarding food stamps, because food stamps is a real, it's a stimulus not only for the families that receive it, but it also helps in terms of the local merchants in communities. So yeah, we've been getting some folks who have been coming to us, and the need and the needs and concerns that they have are very visible.
And we talked at the beginning of the show about the work that you guys done, and for those of you that don't know, the Citizens Advice Bureau will be changing their name Friday, November the 13th. You'll be able to find out exactly what that name is going to be only if you come in on Friday, or tune back in next Tuesday, and by then it'll be old news, but we'll still give you the update as to what it's going to be. But they said early in the beginning of the show, the work that they've been able to do with that you've been able to do with the immigrant population, significant, because the Bronx does see a high number of immigrants coming through here. Citizenship documentation, those are high number. Those are one of the things that really rise to the level of dealing with immigrant issues. Share with us a little bit about the work that you're doing with immigrants.
The immigrant community is very interesting because it's not one community. You have several subsegments in terms of the immigrant population. So there's now, for example, here in the Bronx, a very large Mexican population. There's also a very large West African population, and there's a significant South Asian population. We've been fortunate as an organization in terms of immigrant services because we don't serve one subsegment of the immigrant community. We serve everybody. And in addition to offering assistance with legal documents, helping people with green cards, helping people to get applications for citizenship, we also provide ESL classes, and we also integrate services for immigrants into the range of services that CAB provides. So we have, for example, an early learning program called the Home Instruction Program for preschool youngsters. It's a program that enables mothers to be effective first teachers. That program now is almost 90% immigrant. And it helps immigrants, for one, it helps them to teach their children to read, to write. It also helps them as foreign-born persons learn the customs, learn the ways, learn the values of living here in the United States. So in addition to us doing the nuts and bolts legal immigration work, a lot of the programs and services that we have help in terms of enabling immigrants to integrate into mainstream American life.
What kind of services do you think we're going to see an increase, or you guys are going to see an increase in, given the state of the times right now?
I think clearly you're going to see a growing number of people who are at risk of losing their housing. So the risk of eviction is going to, in my opinion, we're likely to see an increase. It's interesting, the Bronx historically has something like 16–17% of New York City's population. But when you look at the eviction numbers, this borough accounts for about 30% of the evictions citywide. We're likely to see that number increase.
30%.
30% of evictions citywide come from the Bronx, even though we only have 17% of the city's population overall.
Disturbing numbers there, but we got to get ready to leave on a high note. So look, give some people some information that they might want to know more about the CAB, and once again, tell them about Friday.
You can visit our website, which is www.cabny.org. You can call our administration office. Our number is area code 646-393-4000. My direct line is 646-393-4009. And on Friday, November 13th at 9:30 a.m., we will be unveiling the new name for the Citizens Advice Bureau.
I tried. Really, I did. Ken Small, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Always a pleasure.
We invite you, as we said, Friday, November 13th. You go to CAB and find out what the new name is going to be, but more importantly, literally, find out more information about the services and the programs that are offered, because there's so many things that you can take advantage of right here in the borough of the Bronx, services that can really be of benefit to you. And if you get a chance, just stop by a wonderful organization. And Ken, once again, thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you, Darren.
We're saying they've been around since 1972. That was the last time the New York Knicks won a championship. But if we get LeBron James, you never know what happens, baby. I want to tell you, thank you for watching Perspectives. I'm Darren Jaime. For all of us here on the set, thanks for watching. Until the next time we meet, stay safe. Share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in their life.